Hello everyone, I'm Isaac, a cinematographer, CGI and VFX artist, compositor, DOP, and a colorist. In this video, I want to take you behind the scenes of one of our most striking shots from our recent film called Terrorist. So I will take you throughout the process from the raw film to the final product. I will show you the creative decisions and the technical approaches that we took to bring the story to life. So I'm thinking of doing a few episodes on this, and I hope you will learn. I hope that we will build a community that will grow together and to change the industry that we have in our country. So, yep, welcome to my setup. Before we get started with the process, let us just do a breakdown of this final frame. For you to become a cinematographer, you have to really know how to study a frame and to understand the reasons behind every single intentional decision that was made into the making of a frame. So we say that every frame has a story to tell. So from this frame, what can we really understand about the story that is going on? You will forgive my drawings because I'm using my mouse. What can we see from this image? So the first thing I see is I'm drawn to this red bag. And from what we're seeing, there's a girl that is seated on a chair and she has a bag on her head. Her hands are tied to the chair. Even the sitting position, we can see the vulnerability. The place, it is abandoned. Broken walls, overgrowth. You can see a few tables and chairs here and another here. And all these suggest collapse, decay, or aftermath of conflict. The neon tubes feel out of place, almost like a staged interrogation or something. And from what I can say, it just gives the idea that this place is abandoned, but there is human interaction. So meaning that the people who put this girl here, they've probably brought a few individuals to this same place. This solitary chair with the girl in the middle of chaos, it implies vulnerability, but also a deliberate placement, almost as it's an execution, some sort of. Let's talk about the framing and composition. It's a wide shot, probably an 18mm, because it has a very wide field of view. You can see the distortion in the pillars. So the figure is in the middle. The middle is around here, but pushed just enough to the right to create tension to the image. The camera is pushing towards her to bring the viewer closer and to be immersed into the world she is at. You can see there's a frame within a frame. Really nice composition. Even the framing itself, where the character is, you can see. So the image has really some good separation from the contrasty blacks, which, by the way, they are not crushed, still have some details showing depth to the washed out background. The scene has rays which are streaming through the destroyed roof, as you can see, that are leading the eyes to the character. Even though there is no specific spotlight that is lighting the character, she looks blended in and not lit, giving a natural look. The image is really well balanced. The right and the left side is really balanced with the details. So I love that she has a red bag on her head, which, by the way, is the only red thing in the set, making her contrast from the whole image. This is not red, this is orange. This is orange down here. The only red thing is this bag, and it really helps separate her from the whole image. Red and green are opposites in the color wheel, creating a very good separation of her and the background. This light here helps in separating her also. She has this edge. So yeah, the main source of light is the sun. From the rays we can see the beams, and also right here on the side. So this is a very cinematic, beautifully sculpted to tell the story. And from this image, from this frame alone, there's a lot, there's much to be seen, much to be said. Lastly, we're going to talk about the colors in the scene. We can see there's teal and cyan haze in the atmosphere, showing coldness, sterility. There are two amber lights, and they are showcasing warmth, life, but also in contrast, it can show danger depending on the context. So in this scene, we can see that they are scattered, they are apart. The warmth feels fragile, like remnants of humanity in the ruin. And lastly, the color that is remaining is the red, showing danger. It shows oppression. It shows forbidden. It can also show vulnerability. And maybe green, we can see from the leaves, and also in the tint, in the shadows, and from the overgrowth on the walls and the pillars. It's just showing nature reclaiming civilization, a cycle of rebirth after destruction. The color contrasts in the scene, the red and the green, which are opposites in the color wheel, the teal and orange. This makes the scene feel unresolved. It feels tense, alive, mirroring the surreal and uneasy atmosphere. It doesn't matter how cool your shots are, it doesn't matter what kind of gear you used. What matters in film is the story. So that is your work as a cinematographer, that is your work as a DOP, that is your work as a compositor, that is your work as a CGI and VFX artist. Now where do we start? So the first thing we did, we had this blue screen, and we were supposed to key and replace the background, and also roto some sandbags. You start to edit your clips in the raw format. As you can see on the timeline here, we have the shots in their raw format. After editing, now the next thing is compositing. Now this is Nuke. It is the industry software for compositing. I know you're wondering, all of this, what are all these? What are all these, Isaac? It looks very complex, but these are just very basic stuff. If I break them down to you, I'm sure you will grasp one or two things. So this is a Nuke script. This is a full Nuke script from top to down here, and the script starts here and it ends down here. But I'm not gonna go through this. This is a very long script, and let me just find a very basic script that we're gonna use. I've already broken down this first shot to a very small script that will be easy for you guys to understand. So this is the footage from DaVinci, and then the first thing I usually do is to denoise the footage, to remove any noise. I am sure you won't see right now because of YouTube compression, but always when you're doing compositing, always denoise your footage. I use Neat Video. After denoising, the next step is to dispel your footage. I dispelled in two ways. The first was dispelling only the top. That meant I do the roto for the top and then use the mask of the top to mask the edge alpha. Using the alpha, I can dispel to color the edge of the top. Here's the process I took. You take the alpha, I'm gonna show the alpha. You take the edge and then you extend it outside, and then you mask using the alpha of the top, leading you to getting this. So you have the edge alpha of the top, and then using the mask you dispel to color of the top, and then you end up getting this. And then I did a dispel of the whole shot. Here I did two keys. I did the core mat, and then I did the soft mat. You can see the edges are really kept, and then merge them together. and make sure the core is not affecting the edge. Just make sure. Zoom in here. As you can see, it's not affecting the edge. After that, I removed the garbage from the mask, copied the alpha to the distilled plate. Now the distilled plate has the alpha, but not yet applied to the color, to the RGB. So we have to pre-multiply. This is just very, very basic math. I'll dive deeper later on the later episodes. And then after doing some adjustments, we end up with this. The next thing is to key the shadow. A lot of beginners usually don't do that. And so we start with the main plate. We add contrast, very high contrast. And then we do a luma key. I show you the alpha channel. Invert that. Then we get this. Now the shadows are white and the background is black. As always, remove the garbage. Soften the shadow and then we extend it. Make sure to clamp because we have to restrict the values within 0 and 1 because we used the grade node and we really pushed the values. So for us to apply the shadow to the footage, take a solid or a constant and then copy the alpha that we've extracted to it, pre-multiply, and then we can see it has already pre-multiplied. Merge it with the keyed footage from here. Now you can see from the key we have the key and the shadow. So let us see the RGB values. We can see, but we cannot visually see the shadow. What we do is take a constant with any hue, merge them together. Voila, you see the keyed footage with the shadow. The next question is, where do we get the background? How do we get the background? And the Bible says that we are gods and we are made to create. So we are after our God's likeness. So let me just show you a very basic way. These are just basic things that I'm teaching you guys, that I'm showing you guys. Open the software of your choice for 3D modeling. This is where we create. If you're using Blender, like me, always delete everything and then add a cube. Edit mode. Scale, more scaling. Edit mode. Add loop cuts. Select the faces that you don't like. Delete. Voila, you have a window already. We are getting somewhere. Delete the faces that you don't need. Oh, we have another window. And lastly, let's have a door. X. We have a door. Oh, we are in the house. Yay, we've made our environment. Wow. Okay, so just play with the cube for a while, and after a while, magic. Very basic stuff, very basic stuff. As you can see, these are just very basic stuff. Yeah, very easy to do. So after you've played with the cube and you've come up with your own environment that you want, the next thing is just create a camera and animate it the way you want. So I did a pushing, so we are immersing the viewers into the world of the character or the actor. So add a plane. On the material, make sure you put your video as the emitting texture, and then save and apply. Voila, we are done. So now when you play the video, voila, we have our video. Make sure you disable the plane from rendering because we don't want it to render with the environment. We will do that in compositing. So after that, make sure you select the plane and everything that is blocking the plane or anything that is in the foreground, like this and the rocks that are in front. anything that is blocking the foreground, export them as FBX. Just select them, then File, Export Selected. Make sure it's an FBX here, and then boom. Let's go and meet in Nuke for compositing. Now we are back. So we have our key that we exported. This is the main plate with the shadow, and then we transform it, reposition. Transform it means repositioning. And then we unpremult the footage, and then do our color correction to matching it to the background, and then we pre-mult it, as you can see. So let me show you how we merge it with the background. We take our camera from Unreal Engine. Let me show you where it is. There it is, you can see it. Here is the camera from Unreal Engine. And then we exported the plane, and then with the foregrounds, here they are. So when you merge them together, the three of them, so we have the camera, the foreground elements you can see from the image, and the lady. So we do a scanline render through the camera. We get this, so we get the video with a cutout of the foreground elements. We do an edge blur because the image is too sharp. Now we soften the edges, and then a light drop. It may take a while. So on the background, here it is that we rendered. Due to CG footage being sharp, we always add blur to soften the image, and then we add a Z defocus. A Z defocus is adding depth of field using the Z depth as our alpha or as our factor. So that we'll talk later. And then I merged the two. Now this is how it's looking. You can see she's really blended very well. So now I can show you the color correction in this part. If I disable the color correction, you can see how she's looking. And after correction, she's blended in nicely. So we can't preview the final footage because there's a footage that is missing here. I think I misplaced or something, though I'll find it later. So this process that is happening here is just adding haze and adding particles in the atmosphere so it feels lively. So after that, now we export the footage and we take it to DaVinci on top of the raw. Let me enable it, and then we go now to the color page for the final step of post-production, that is color grading. I usually work with my scopes like this. So I start with my secret sauce, which is adding a film look and film texture. And then now I start the process by white balancing my footage. White balancing usually doesn't mean that white should be white. It depends with the look and the feel you're going for. So white balancing, and then the exposure, and then the contrast, saturation. What I usually do, I love subtractive saturation. On my first node for the saturation, I come and reduce the saturation. You can see here, it's 40. And then I add subtractive saturation. I love it so much because it makes colors look deep and rich. And then I do curves. Curves, I usually use them to shape my colors. And if I want extra control, then I add warpers. You can see around this place what is happening. Even in the chromaticity, you can see. And also the vector scope. This node has nothing. And then after that, this is where I build my look with these few nodes here. And voila, you can see. In the later episodes, I'll be doing very detailed videos on every single part of the process. Right now I'm just cruising through. And then here's my secret sauce, and then I do my adjustments after the look development process here. And then I do my masks in this place. I add a glow, a very basic glow, you can see. It just lifts the highlights a little bit and softens the image just a touch. And then I clean up my blacks. And finally, my secret sauce. This I usually do to push the contrast, the color contrast, and also the luma contrast. Yeah, and that's the final shot. Thank you guys for your time. I'm really grateful. And that was the anatomy of this shot. And today we were just brushing off. But later in the episodes, I'll be diving deeper into more detail, more insight, and more depth. So I hope you will stay with me, subscribe, like, and share to not miss any of the future videos. And also make sure you leave a comment so that I may know what you've grasped or what I should work on. Yeah, I'm still in the beginning of my content creation. So thank you so much. See you next time. Peace.